You think you know Sparta. You see the gleaming bronze, the chiseled abs, the crimson cloaks. You hear the defiant shout, "This is Sparta!" It's a magnificent lie. A piece of brilliant, toxic propaganda that has festered for 2.5 millennia. We've been fed a myth of noble sacrifice, of iron-willed discipline, of a warrior state that bred heroes. I'm here to tell you that the brutal breeding practices in Sparta weren't about creating perfect warriors. They were about mass-producing perfect monsters for a state built on slavery, terror, and relentless, grinding cruelty. I want you to forget the Hollywood fantasy. I want you to picture the reality. Go to the foothills of Mount Taygetus. Stand at the edge of the Apatethei, the deposits. It's a ravine, a garbage dump. The air is cold. The only sound is the wind and something else, the faint cry of a newborn. This is the true epicenter of the Spartan machine, not the battlefield. This chasm, this is where the story begins. Because in Sparta, you weren't born a person, you were born a product, and the state was the only customer. You've been told this was toughness, a warrior culture making hard choices. That is the whitewash. That is the polished marble they used to pave over a mass grave of infants. This wasn't some grim, unavoidable custom. It wasn't culling the weak out of tragic necessity. It was a calculated, cold-blooded system of human husbandry. It was eugenics, plain and simple. The Spartans weren't heroes. They were stock breeders, and they were the first and most terrifying eugenicist state in history. This wasn't chaos. It was design. Who designed it?
Every machine of depravity has an architect. In Sparta, he's a ghost, a legend, a man named Lycurgus. History calls him the lawgiver, a visionary genius who forged the Spartan constitution. Let's call him what he really was, the chief ideologue of a fascist nightmare. He was the monster who looked at the human family and saw only inefficiency. He saw love as a liability. He saw compassion as a contamination of the bloodline. It was Lycurgus, according to the ancient writers like Plutarch, who formalized the abomination. He decreed that a child was not the property of its father, but of the state. Can you even imagine the arrogance, the sheer totalitarian filth of that idea? This is how it worked. The father, his hands probably still stained with the blood of the last slave he butchered, would take his newborn, his own child, and present it, not to his family, not to his wife, but to a tribunal of withered old men, the Gerousia. Picture these jackals, these geriatric inspectors poking and prodding a day-old infant. Was it well-formed? Did it look sturdy? Was its cry strong enough? If they saw any defect, any imperfection, any sign of simple human frailty, the verdict was given. Death. No appeal. The father would then take the child to the apothecary and discard it, leave it to die of exposure or to be torn apart by wolves. And what of the mother? We hear all the time about Spartan mothers, strong women, come back with your shield or on it. Vile propaganda. This was a woman ripped open by childbirth, whose entire worth as a human being was just reduced to this one moment of quality control. Her only value was her womb, and if that womb produced a defective product, She was a failure. This wasn't strength. This was the most profound, soul-crushing trauma imaginable, normalized as patriotism. These individuals, the father who would murder his own child, the mother forced to accept it, they were just the first cogs. Personal depravity was just the prologue. The institution was the real villain.
The institution, the great Rethra, the Spartan constitution. This wasn't a set of laws to protect citizens. It was a factory manual for producing a master race. The infanticide at the apothete was just quality control at the end of the assembly line. The true depravity started at the beginning. It started with the womb. Lycurgus didn't leave breeding to chance. That would be inefficient. Marriage wasn't about love or partnership or even simple attraction. It was a state-mandated assignment. A man was expected to marry at his physical peak, around 30. A woman was expected to marry at her peak, late teens or early 20s. Why? To ensure premium offspring. It's the cold, dead language of a stockbreeder's ledger. But what if the ledger didn't add up? What if a man was old, but his wife was still a prime specimen? This is where the rot truly sets in. The ancient writers, Xenophon and Plutarch, tell us exactly what happened. The old husband was encouraged, no, expected, to find a younger, stronger, fitter warrior and have that man impregnate his wife. Think about that. This wasn't some liberated free love commune. This was a society that punished every other shred of individualism with savage conformity. But this cold, calculated transaction of sperm and uterus, this was celebrated. It was a civic duty. The child wasn't the husband's. It wasn't the lover's. It belonged to the state. The woman was just a vessel, a broodmare passed from one stallion to the next to ensure the quality of the state's livestock. You're not ready for this. The famous freedom of Spartan women, the fact they exercised naked, that they were educated. You think that was enlightenment? It was an abomination. It was training. They weren't being educated. They were being groomed. They were kept fit, healthy, and strong for one reason, and one reason only: to be healthy incubators for the state's future killers. The entire system was designed to divorce humanity from procreation. The apothete just filtered the rejects. The real machine was designed to manufacture monsters from the very start. Every machine pushed to its limit explodes.
The explosion happened at age 7. If a boy survived the Gerusia's death sentence, if he survived his first 7 years, he wasn't safe. He was just eligible for the Agōgē, the state education system. This is the rupture, the point of no return. Forget boarding school. This wasn't tough love. This was a systematic, psychological demolition of a human being. Imagine a 7-year-old boy, your son, your nephew, your brother. He still believes in stories. He still needs his mother when he's scared. Now, imagine that boy being ripped from his mother's arms. He is told she is irrelevant. He is thrown into a barracks with older, brutalized boys. He is given one set of clothes, no shoes. He is deliberately, systematically starved. The logic? He must learn to steal his food. This is the part they love to praise. It made them cunning, vile.
If he was caught stealing, he was viciously whipped, not for the crime of theft, no. He was whipped for the crime of being caught. Do you see the poison? The system wasn't teaching him stealth. It was teaching him that morality is irrelevant, that the only sin is failure. It was teaching him to equate empathy with weakness, to see pity as a disease. They were taught to murder their own emotions, to cauterize their own souls, until nothing was left but a cold, obedient loyalty to the machine that was grinding them into parts. Plutarch tells a story meant to be admirable of a boy who stole a fox, hid it under his cloak, and allowed the terrified animal to disembowel him, to tear his guts out, rather than cry out and be caught. The boy died. The Spartans praised his discipline. This is not discipline. This is psychosis. This is the behavior of a cult. They weren't building soldiers. They were building psychopaths. They were forging human weapons, devoid of mercy, devoid of fear, of anything human. But what was the final exam in this school from hell? What was the graduation ceremony? Rehearsal was over. Feeding time began.
It was called the Krypteia, the secret thing. Picture it. The Agōgē's star pupils, the most brutal, the most cunning, the most dead inside. They are turned loose into the Spartan countryside at night, armed only with daggers. Who are they hunting? A foreign enemy? No. Are they hunting animals to prove their skill? No. They are hunting people. They are hunting the Helots, the vast, sprawling slave population that the entire Spartan state was built upon. The Helots, who outnumbered the pure Spartan citizens at least 10 to 1. The Helots, who worked the fields, who built the buildings, who fed their parasitic masters. This is the vulture's feast. This wasn't a random rampage. This was policy. The Krypteia was a secret police, a death squad. The graduates of the Agōgē were ordered to move through the farmland in secret to find the strongest Helots, the most intelligent ones, the ones who showed even a spark of defiance, and to murder them in their sleep. I want you to burn this image into your mind. A Helot farmer, a man whose only crime was being born, asleep in his hut after a 16-hour day working his master's land. The door creaks. A shadow slips in. It's a 17-year-old boy, his eyes dead, his dagger raised, a gurgle, a moment of terror, then silence. The boy, the perfect warrior, wipes his blade, his graduation complete. He has proven his fitness to join the master race. This is the unutterable truth of Sparta. The entire eugenics program, the apothetae, the broodmare wives, the Agōgē, it was all for this. It was all designed to create a small, elite class of superhuman butchers to terrorize and oppress a massive, enslaved population. They weren't breeding heroes to fight for freedom. They were breeding overseers for a plantation state. They were breeding jackals to keep the sheep terrified and in their pens. This was their perfect warrior, a death squad assassin, a hunter of the unarmed, an abomination. The screams stopped. The lie began.
The lie. The great, stinking, infectious lie that has poisoned Western civilization ever since. What happened to this perfect state? It collapsed. It devoured itself. Shocker! A society that murders its children, that systematically dehumanizes its survivors, that bases its entire economy on a terror that must be reapplied every single night? It's not sustainable. The Spartan birth rate plummeted. The machine ground to a halt, choking on its own filth. By the time the Romans showed up, Sparta was a theme park, as one historian called it. A pathetic tourist trap for Romans who wanted to see the brutal old traditions. Sure, but the idea, the poisonous legacy, that didn't die. The whitewashing began almost immediately. Philosophers like Plato and Aristotle, while critical, still admired the discipline and unity of the Spartan machine. The Romans fetishized it. And for the next 2,000 years, the West has been obsessed with this fantasy. This isn't ancient history. This is a blueprint for monsters. Where do you think the 20th century eugenicists got their playbook? When the Nazis dreamed of a master race, when they spoke of Lebensraum, when they designed their own programs to eliminate the unfit and to breed pure Aryan children, who do you think they were idolizing? They were idolizing this. They looked right back at Lycurgus. They saw the apothety not as an atrocity, but as an inspiration. They saw the Agōgē as the perfect model for their own Hitler youth. They saw the Helot hunting Krypteia as the righteous, necessary terror of the SS. Sparta wasn't a noble experiment. It was a prototype, a fascist's wet dream. Every time you watch a movie that glorifies these crimson-caped killers, every time you hear a gym instructor or a CEO praise Spartan discipline, you are swallowing the same propaganda that was used to justify the murder of children. You are admiring the butcher's apron and calling it a flag. You are cheering for the jackals. They have convinced you their depravity was strength. They are still lying to you. Power doesn't just corrupt. It builds monuments to its own monstrosities and demands that you worship them.